All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Warhammer Fantasy 4th Edition with Blades and Blasters. I am Doc. I'm going to be running this. I'm going to be running Mordheim, City of the Dam, using that system. We have, again, with us tonight, we have Maddie playing Juliana. We have TD, the dude. He's going to be playing Lucian. And then we have Ghost playing Dorok, the Slayer. If you have watched this previously, any of them, if you're enjoying them, go ahead, click subscribe down below. If you enjoy what we do as Blades and Blasters, a group of GMs and RPGers, role players, go ahead and join our fan page as well for more information, for more news about what we do, and a constant stream of content coming out. I'm sure there's a setting or a system in there that you will enjoy. So go ahead and join us, see what you think. Anyhow, this is going to be the 7th session, I believe, of Mordheim, City of the Dam. The last session saw the group recovering after a battle with a troll and the fallout from that. Some members of the crew are horribly upset. Some members are dealing with it a little better. The captain has decided that he needs to stop at a village, a riverside village called the Midway Village, or Midport Village, I'm sorry, for supplies and to find new crew to help man the ship, man the boat here. Also, they encountered a high elf patrol boat who had been patrolling in the waters there, looking for pirates, is what they said. There was some tension between the high elf captain and some what would you call it? Some tension between what he was being told and what he thought might not be the case, between Juliana, what she was saying to him, maybe some of the others, but he went ahead, took their word for it, and left the boat. Yeah, it's all kind of vague there, I know, but watch the last session for the details. You'll understand what I'm saying. And they made their way finally to Midport Village, and that's where we left off last time. And we're going to pick that up here this time, with them getting off the boat at Midport Village. All right. TD, are you not able to hear anything?
I hear it.
I hear it.
It's fine for me.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Oh, had it muted. Okay. So, after it's been about five 5 gently rocking, maybe slightly cramped or crowded days aboard the boat, coming up the river towards Mordheim. 5 days making your way to this point, to Midport Village, where Captain Frisch has decided that he needs to resupply and take on more crew, especially after losing his second mate, Alwyn, to the troll attack several days back. It's maybe a place to get a little bit of rest, a little bit more rest than you've been able to get on the boat. But Captain Frisch again reasserts his previous statements. We're going to be here for 1 day. I need to find some crew, some supplies. Shouldn't take long. So, you've got tonight. We're leaving tomorrow morning. As long as you're all aware of that, you're at the boat in the morning, and we can continue on. And he looks at all 3 of you. But if you're not at the boat, I still have a job to do. I'll assume you didn't want to go, or you've made other arrangements, and I'll carry on without you.
Juliana just nods to the captain. We'll make sure that we are back on the boat before the time that we leave.
And he nods. He points off in the direction that you guys are facing. Right over there, there's a tavern. Best one, might be the only one. I'm not sure. It's been a few months since I've been here. Last time it was the only one. Anyhow, tavern. It's a River Maiden Inn right over there. Man who runs it is friendly enough. You just let him know that you're with my crew, and he'll see that arrangements are made for you.
Alright, thank you, Captain. We will make sure to take up on that offer.
Well then, if I don't see you there at the inn later on tonight, I'll see you back on the boat tomorrow morning.
Alright. Well, good luck to you, Captain.
And he nods and starts walking off. As he's walking off, sorry, I should have put these out. Saskia is also there, and she looks over at the 3 of you. It's like, well, I'm assuming you'll be back at the boat in the morning. If not, well, this might be our goodbyes. I plan on being in the tavern later on tonight. If you're there, maybe we could have a drink. And she's looking at all 3 of you when she says this.
Juliana nods to Saskia. She kind of takes her right hand and edges her cheek a bit, looking down to the side. Well, I hope to see you at the tavern later.
And she sheepishly nods. Listen, Juliana, I'm sorry about how angry I became the other evening. It's just so much.
Juliana kind of jumps in on Saskia and she shakes her. No, I apologize. I was, as Lucian can attest, I am not the best with words. I did not mean the way it came off, but no matter what, I can't take what I said. You are perfectly fine to feel what you are feeling, and I should have just been there for you instead of trying to give you terrible advice. I'm sorry.
And she closes her eyes for just a moment. and opens them. Yes, well, let's make sure to have that drink tonight.
Good.
Sure, are you buying? And he just, Durag is kind of stretching a bit. I'm just joking. But it's not the best time for it, sorry.
And she just gives you a quizzical look. She couldn't tell that that was a joke at all. Looks just a little confused and laughs just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well then, maybe tonight then. And looking back at you, Juliana.
Juliana smiles and nods. Yes, tonight. I will make sure to buy you at least one drink. Not you, Duak.
Oh, if you owe anybody one, it's me, but fine, be that way.
And Saskia turns and sees that the captain is already talking to someone off in the distance, gesturing hand motions. She turns back to you three. Well, I'm going to go join the captain. We have some work to do to get the ship up and running again, backed up to full manpower, so that we can finish the trip. We should only be a couple of days out, but the waters get just a little more dangerous from here on out.
Juliana nods and gives her a bit of a wave. Well, we won't keep you long then. You go up to the captain. We'll meet you at the tavern.
And she gives a weak smile and nods, and she turns and heads towards the captain.
Juliana looks over to the other two, down at Durak and up at Lucian. So, I guess we should maybe, I don't know, get some more rations for the types, see if we can find anything else. Maybe there's another elf armor for you to piss off, Lucian.
Perhaps. But I think, maybe we should go and secure rooms first and then go see about provisions.
You can also see about getting rid of your cargo.
Yes, I figured that the tavern would be a good place. We may be able to sit and just listen for a bit, listen like thieves, just to see what kind of information we can pick up, or if anyone is talking. You never know.
Talking about what exactly? Juliana will start making her way to the tavern.
Anything, really. I mean, people may start talking in more cryptic ways.
Are you saying we should gather information maybe about Mordheim itself?
Perhaps about Mordheim, and also maybe if anyone, just listen to see if anyone else is interested. Maybe someone else has had interactions with that patrol.
Alright, I don't think the patrol itself is an issue, but maybe if we can figure out if anyone knows about what happened to that other ship, that might be a better idea.
Perhaps, but at this point it may serve us better just to remain in the dark as to the events that occurred there.
Of course, but just listening. Maybe, unless... I understand what you mean.
And then, Lucian, I would like you to make a toughness test, please. Without the positive. Yeah, you realize that you're starting to feel good despite your wounds. The past few days on the boat, the rest, the not having to do any strenuous labor, the captain putting you on lookout basically has helped you recover pretty nicely up to this point.
Okay. So we were headed to the tavern.
Yeah, so you start walking through the small village, and people are just giving you looks and stares. You're obviously not from here. You walk through a little area, and some people step aside. A chicken runs across the ground as you make your way over there, and you head in the direction that Captain Frisch sent you. And you look around, and then you can kind of see where some people are coming in and out of, and it's not too hard to find the River Maiden Inn.
Juliana will let Lucian or Durak lead the way into the tavern, and she'll mostly keep eyes out to see if anybody's looking towards them or paying them a lot of attention.
Go ahead and make a perception test.
Durak would lead the way in. He wants to get a drink pretty quickly.
Oh my goodness.
Juliana, you notice that as soon as you walk in, especially with Durak leading the way, it's pretty obvious to you that all eyes are on all three of you. You're not going unnoticed in the slightest bit. You walk in, and even those that are trying to be sly about it, there's a small, hunched over gentleman sitting at a bench in there, and he's got his head down, but he's peering up at you. You immediately spot that too. So even those that are kind of slyly trying to take in the sight of you three walking in, you're immediately aware that everyone turns and stares at you guys, especially with, like I said, the dwarf with the red mohawk and red beard walking in first.
Juliana, she looks around, sees everybody is staring, and looks down at Durak, and she leans down to him, kind of whispers, "Well, looks like all eyes are on you now."
Usually audible, Manling.
Well, I'm sure you're already used to your popularity.
Popularity. No, I just need something to gawk at.
You do notice that there are about probably 7, 8 other people in the tavern right now. A couple of old men sitting in the corner talking. There's a woman by the fire sitting there by herself. Like I said, there's a small man sitting at a table by himself. Just a random group of people. Some of them actually do look like travelers. They're wearing traveling gear. Some of them look like locals. They're wearing kind of shabby clothes and look like they live here.
And Durak's gonna pay little mind to all the eyes. It's a usual thing for him, and he just kind of bursts into the tavern and is gonna make his way right to the bar.
And you make your way to the bar, and this gentleman standing in there cleaning a tankard. He looks down at you. "Oh, oi, Master Dwarf, can I get you something?"
What you got to eat and what you got to drink?
Well, I've got the standard meal. I got some bread. I think I've got a couple eggs back there. Um, Plenty of chickens running around here. I could probably scramble one of them up. Now, as far as drink, well, I've got ale. I've got some ale, and I've got some more ale. If you don't like that, well, there's a river out there.
Oh, let's start off with 3 pints and a plate of eggs and bread. How much?
And he looks at you, and looks at the others, and he says, "Well, I think that's probably going to be a good silver right there, don't you think?"
That seems fair enough. He reaches in and all he has is golds. And he puts the gold on the table, and if the service is good and you keep the drinks coming, you might get to keep the whole thing. Huh?
And his eyes get wide. He's like, "Well, yeah, yes, Master Dwarf. Do I call you Master Dwarf, or do I call you Master? Do I call you Slayer? Or what should I call you?"
Don't say Slayer. Call me Durak. Or Dwarf. Doesn't matter. Just feed me and give me something to drink.
Yes, Durak. Right away, Durak. And he turns and starts filling the tankard that he's cleaning up with, golden ale, and turns back around and pushes it towards you. And I'll scare up some food right quick.
Right. He just kind of gets his head into his cups.
And as he's excitedly starting to move back, he sees you, Juliana, and Lucian. Well, are these friends of yours, Durak?
Oh, they've got their own coin.
Oh yes, of course. How can I help you two?
Oh, well, I think both of us will have an ale and, whatever meal that you have in the back would be adequate. Also, I think our friend Dorak is a little bit focused on your wonderful establishment, as we also do need rooms for the night. Isn't that right? She'll look at Dorak.
Oh, they need rooms. I'm fine with the commons. They're lovers, so they'll need their own room. You understand, yeah?
Oh well, lovers. It's a beautiful river, wonderful place to fall in love.
Ah, yes, and you're such a wonderful establishment. Captain Fresh told us actually to come here. We are on your ship at the moment.
And he smiles when you mention Captain Frisch's name. The captain sent you, did he? Well,
He did.
why didn't you tell me that, Durak?
So I'm hungry and want something to drink, probably.
Yes, well, let me go ahead and start working on that. I'm always glad to serve friends of the captain. He's been a patron here several times. Always pays well, always means well, and never leaves anything broken here.
Well,
And-
we'll make sure to keep up that reputation.
And he turns around and heads into the back to start preparing everything that you guys have requested. You find a table in there and sit down. Immediately, some people near you kind of slide over and move away. Others are just staring at you as you find a central table and sit there, the three of you.
Not exactly the most friendly bunch, yeah?
I think they are more just intrigued by our companion, Lucian. I don't know if it's not friendliness, or maybe they are just not used to seeing a slayer.
Probably not.
You're right, it is something to look at if you're not used to it.
Like I said, peasant small towns always need something to gawk at. Not a big surprise.
Juliana nods and takes a drink of her ale. So, it's going to be difficult early to overhear much, but if we just sit here and maybe people will approach out of curiosity, we can at least inquire as to what's going on in the area.
It's not a terrible idea, but I still do think it would be wise to get our provisions before we really settle in for the night.
Fine. Well, what else do you really need? I mean, maybe just a few more rations for the rest of the trip. I think that should do us. Otherwise, I think that I'm personally prepared to head into Mordheim.
Yes, well, rations would be good. However, we just never know what we're gonna find out on the streets, who we might run into, who might be out there just poking around themselves.
You want to find new friends, is that it?
Not necessarily. What I'm suggesting is they may, or maybe not, have been trying to at least track us. They seemed very off-put by something.
Ooh. Yes. I think we know what they are put by. Maybe?
I'd say that's a pretty good guess, however, you never know.
I don't really want to inquire too much about the airship. I feel like that would be very suspicious in itself, but if you want to check to see if other people have had earnings with them, asking what they have found, what they have got cargo for, then maybe I will see if there's anything of interest within the marketplace itself.
Why are you two so bothered about the Elgi? Didn't they just come on board and have a chat?
She looks around a bit. We can talk about that later. It was not just a chat. There was some other things by some of the questions that they asked that maybe we are hiding something more.
Oh, bugger. And he just goes back to drinking and shakes his head. Oh, you two, I swear. Swear on my ancestors.
Lucian looks over to Juliana and he just whispers to her, I'm not entirely interested in asking around if there have been elves or patrolmen here. More so in just walking about, poking around and looking at some of the wares, the local wares, and maybe just see if anyone else is out there, if any of them are following us, perhaps.
Juliana just kind of rolls her eyes a bit, but nods. Fine. We'll do that. You can see if anyone's following us. That is fine.
And
Okay.
with that, a young lady comes over and she's holding a large platter, and she brings the platter over and starts pulling off wooden plates and sets them down in front of you guys. Plates that have cheese and bread, different things on them, just an assortment. One of them has some fruit on it, and she has a couple other tankards of ale that she takes off of the tray and slides over specifically towards Durak. And she looks at the three of you. Um, Adult told me to bring this over here to you. Is this for you?
Durak looks at her. Did he already get all his drinks and food, or is he still waiting on it?
Is he waiting on who?
This is the food you're waiting on.
Okay,
This
just wanted to make
this
sure.
is it.
Oh, hi, that's me.
Oh, very good, very good. And she unloads it and sets everything down in front of you guys, and quickly turns around and starts to walk away.
Lucian actually calls out after her, "Excuse me."
Then she turns around. Yes, me.
Yes, you, ma'am. Listen, would it be possible to get any provisions, stock up on any food, be able to buy any of your wares to be able to take with us?
Well, yes, of course. We have provisions that we do provide to many travelers that come through here. It's been quite a busy place in the last several months. It seems like for some reason more and more people are wanting to go to Mordheim and see the destruction there. I don't understand, but the curiosity is there, and I guess I can't complain too much. The village is profiting off of it nicely. It's been helpful, and she looks down. It's been very helpful. But Harold has put together provision packs that he sells to the travelers. If that's what you're looking for.
Yes, that's what I'm after. We'll be needing some of those, but we'll take care of that. I just, by curiosity, I thought I would ask.
Well, yes. This is the inn and the tavern, so this is where you would get your provisions, such as that. Anything else, though, you would have to go out if you're looking for anything specific.
No, thank you.
And she looks over at you other two, just a little confused. Is there anything else?
Oh, yes, my girl. You said lots of people, of course, you can see many have come to here, going to Mordheim. Have any traveled back and come through here?
I'm sorry. Say that again. Your accent is so strong. It's not one that I'm familiar with.
I apologize. Has anyone else come back here, through here, once they've gone to Mordheim?
Once they have gone through Mordheim, well, yes. Several have. We get plenty of people who want to stop here after returning from Mordheim briefly until they head back to Altdorf. It seems most of the travel between Mordheim and here is just a stop on the way to Altdorf, or vice versa, from Altdorf to Mordheim. But more and more people are stopping here on that trip.
Have you heard anything interesting?
I've heard so many interesting tales coming out of Mordheim. Some say there are monsters that live there. I don't know if I believe that. I've heard that there are roving groups that fight each other for rocks. It sounds silly, I know, but the way you hear some of these sailors tell it, it sounds so exciting. But I've also heard that people have lost many a friend in Mordheim. Apparently it's a dangerous place now that the city has been destroyed. The buildings are ruined and wrecked. The roads, they don't line up the way they once did. It is hard to navigate, that is for sure. And sometimes I've heard stories of people getting lost. They try and navigate the city and they just never come out. I don't know how much truth is in all this. Of course, sailors can be very flamboyant and they like to tell big stories, but I, I, I don't know what's real. I've never been.
Well, it's probably for the best that you don't go and just hear the stories. And Juliana will give her a smile. But thank you for letting us know. We appreciate the service.
Oh yes, let me know if you need anything else.
Of course. And your name?
My my name is Glinda.
And it's lovely to meet you, Glenda. I'm Juliana.
Thank you. And she turns and starts heading back into the back area of the bar there.
And Juliana will tuck into her food and look over to Lucien. What do you think?
Well, from what she said, it's nothing more than I really expected.
So, we should also see, maybe if maybe anyone has seen Frederick. See if he came to here.
That's not a terrible idea. If this is the nicer inn, perhaps maybe the barkeep might have some information.
Juliana nods. Yes, well, maybe after this I will inquire with him.
Although I don't know that it'd be entirely wise to start an entire investigation all within this tavern.
Well, we know where
Could
he
draw
did
more
it.
attention than we are looking for.
We just need to know from the barkeep if he came to here. If so, that would be good. Then we know you're on the right track. If not, then that means you got to Mordheim in a different way, which makes our job more difficult.
Yes, well, let's eat and drink now, and we'll get to that when we do.
Fine, fine.
So, as you sit there, eating, drinking, discussing whatever it is you're all discussing, people come and go. There's a few people who haven't moved and are still in there. You know, the woman by the fire, the small man sitting at the table. The old men have stood up and walked out, talking loudly to each other, obviously intoxicated. They're just everyone's in there, and the stares have diminished. They're no longer looking at you, but you can see that every time you stand up or make any kind of move, people do take notice and look at you again.
After finishing her meal, Juliana's gonna make her way back up to the bar, kind of sitting down. She'll motion the barkeep over.
And the barkeep looks at you. He raises an eyebrow and his hand points it up as if, "Oh yes, yes," and then walks over. Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?
Well, you never actually said how much we owe you for the food, for one.
Oh, it's the same across the board. It's 1 silver for the provisions for the night.
Alright. She takes out the silver, takes out 2 more, and puts on the table. There's something else that I wanted to ask as well. You see very many people who come through here, and I'm sure a few of them blend together, but there's a gentleman that a compatriot of ours that we are looking to meet up with as we head out. If I give you a description, do you think you could tell me if you've seen him?
Well, I assume I could if it's a distinctive description. If there's something that triggers my memory of him, then we could give it a shot, of course.
And so Juliana will describe Frederick, trying to get all the details out to the barkeep.
Durak, between bouts of drinking, don't want to have a painting of the lad.
She'll look back at Durak. She'll say, well, if I need the painting, then yes, I'll bring it out, but I'd rather not.
Durak just shrugs.
And you describe Friedrich, and the description is basically one of any number of people who have or who can have could have come through here. There's no horribly distinctive features about Friedrich that would make him stand out to the barkeep here. And he, unfortunately, based on your description, kind of shrugs his shoulders, and I wish I could be of more help, but a light-haired young man coming here, well, I see them almost on a daily basis. I can't say that anyone looks horribly different from any other one. All adventurers,
Of course. She'll take out the noble ring that she has, and she'll show it to him. Do you think you've seen maybe any sort of symbolism like this on anyone?
And he looks at the ring and he scratches his beard. He gets down close and kind of squints a little bit and looks at it. Like, no, ma'am, I'm sorry. I can't say that I have. That just doesn't look familiar to me.
Well, thank you for trying to remember. She'll slide the 3 silver over to him.
And his eyes get wide. He's like, well, yes, thank you. If I could be of any more help, don't hesitate to ask me.
Of course. We greatly appreciate it. We are going to be departing for now, but if I could inquire upon a private room for me and my compatriot. She'll gesture over to Lucian.
Yes, of course. We have, and he looks at Glinda over there, and she says 4 now. We have 4 available private rooms, so one of them is yours. It seems most people want to either stay on their boats or stay in common rooms. So we do have a number of rooms available.
Lovely. How much would that be?
A private room is going to be 3 silver, but considering everything that you folks have paid me here tonight, and friends of Captain Frisch, of course, I'd say we're pretty even here.
Well, thank you very much. She nods her head to him and gets up back from the bar, heading back to Lucian and Doc. She'll grab her mug, taking one last swig, putting it down, looking to Lucian. You ready?
I am.
She'll look over to Doc. Are you coming with, or are you going to stay here and drink this man and devour some gnome? I'm assuming by the silence that you're going to drink.
That's had trouble hearing. Say it one more time for me.
Julian asked if Doc was going to stay here and drink the barman at the House Gnome.
Oh, I'll be down here until I pass out, as usual.
Alright, well, if you hear anything interesting, let us know, and we'll do the same for you.
Interested from manlings. Not likely, but sure, I'll come get you.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe if there's a new technique on braiding beards, you can let us know.
No, the established 136 techniques have not been changed in many centuries, thank you.
Oh, well, I'd love to hear about each one. I'm thinking about going my own.
It'd do you some good. I'm sure your manling would like it as well.
I'm sure. A little bit of a tickle never hurts.
Go enjoy your perversions. Leave me to my drink.
Ileana smiles at Doc and looks to Lucian, gesturing him towards the door as she heads out that way.
Duroc stays behind and he's having drinks, and Juliana, you and Lucian head back out into the streets. And let me find the streets again. So you head back out into the streets, and again, it's not a large village. It's probably a little under a medium-sized village, even. So there's not a whole lot to look at and see around. You can see where there's a tanner, a fishery, a fishmonger, that kind of thing. But there are no real places that are selling any wares of significance. Off in the distance, you hear the obvious sounds of a blacksmith. Someone's weaving reeds together, making some mats sitting on a corner there. There's some animals running around, but nothing is standing out as being anything of any significant importance as you guys walk out.
Juliana will wrap an arm around Lucian's, looking up at him. Well, this is for you to lead for now. Wherever you want to go, I will follow.
Yes, perhaps just a casual stroll will be somewhat unnoticeable.
Yes, and without a red-haired dwarf, I think this would be a lot better.
Yes, perhaps. Let's just be on. Lucian looks around and picks a direction and just begins to walk.
Juliana will keep a note of where the tavern is so they don't get lost.
Yeah, there's no real risk of getting lost in this village. You walk through, and you do see some people who look to be sailors, and they seem to be haggling with someone over some wood and rope, that kind of thing. You walk down the muddy roadways, and again, people are just kind of stepping out of your way and moving. Other adventurers, obviously, by the leathers they're wearing and the packs they have on their back, you can see them, and they just kind of give you a knowing nod and look as they see you walking through, knowing that you're also not from this place. And you just kind of stroll through this village where it's just I'm not going to say uncomfortable, but a slightly just inconvenienced feeling of knowing that you don't belong here, and that this definitely isn't some place that you would you would want to stay for long periods of time. It's that almost that feeling of like, oh, I can't believe people actually live here.
Juliana's resisting the urges to turn her nose up at a lot of things, just trying to keep a very straight face. And she kind of looks around to see if anyone's looking their way or anything, or if anyone interesting's on their walk.
Go ahead and you can both make a perception test. Okay. I'm going to send you something, Juliana.
As they're walking, Juliana just happens to glance back, and afterwards kind of glancing forward. And they walk another block. She'll kind of pull Lucian's head down a bit, give him a kiss on the cheek, and as she kind of pulls away, the man, the small one from the tavern is following us.
And Lucian gives a fake chuckle and grabs or wraps his arm more up around Juliana's neck area and just pulls her head in kind of close and kisses her on top of the head. And he just whispers to her as he's doing that, "Let's not draw too much attention. We'll just keep on and pretend we don't notice, obviously, but see how far he'll follow us."
Alright. Though I'm concerned, but, well, if he keeps following us, we can go down an alleyway and confront him there.
Yes, well, let's do a couple of laps and perhaps we can spot maybe the best place to set up a little ambush.
Ileana nods and keeps close to Lucian as they walk. She'll make sure that her coin purse is very inaccessible, probably just down the front of her shirt.
Okay, so you guys continue walking through, and as you're walking through, you're looking for maybe places that you could dip into or sneak from, or a place where you can turn and confront this person. And go ahead, you can both make a challenging, since you're not familiar with the area, challenging, so no benefit, no bonuses, streetwise tests.
I can't find it there. I'll go to the sheet.
I don't see a streetwise on the sheet either.
Yeah, I don't either.
What is it called here then?
There's navigate, but
No, it would.
Is it track? Urban? Suburban?
I would. You could probably just do a perception. Challenging perception is equivalent.
Yeah, it's gonna have
thing,
to be.
Alright.
I'm so used to other systems having these things. We run so many, I get mixed up on who has what.
I think it could be for like a special like advanced skill if you take it, like something that doesn't fall into the regular norm. But if no one has it, then probably just perception challenging would make sense.
Yep. So a challenging perception test. So as you're, walking through the area, there's nothing that's standing out to you as being an opportune place to dip into. There's several people standing about. There's no real good secluded area. There's cattle being pushed through one area by a woman who has a long, thin, stick, and she's kind of leading the cattle along. There are, like I said, adventurers and travelers, sailors, all moving through various areas, and it's the middle of the day, so it's bright out here. There's just no opportunity that you've been able to find.
Yeah, Juliana, again, still close to Lucian. She's looking around, seeing if she can find something. Finally, she just looks up to Lucian.
I'd rather just confront him here anyway. In the streets, see if he runs.
Let's just stop and see what he does.
Yeah, that's not a terrible idea.
Juliana then just kind of halts in her tracks and kind of quickly turns around to look at the small man.
And you stop and turn around to face this person who's kind of off in the distance. And as you stop to turn around, you just see them in the distance stop themselves. They don't look at you, but they stop and they don't come anywhere near you either. And even though it's off in the distance, you notice that this guy's pretty short. Go ahead and both of you make standard perception tests, or make intelligence tests.
Okay.
So, Lucian, you finally, not caring if you confront him or not, you stop and you look at him, and this time you stare at him, and you look at him, and you realize, wow, that guy is short. And you realize that he's a halfling.
And so, as Lucian's just staring at him and noticing that this small person isn't moving, he wheels Juliana around and snatches her hand and just almost begins charging, kind of barreling at this halfling.
Yeah, Juliana's a bit taken aback, almost tripping over her feet, but she goes along with it. Are you going towards him?
Okay, so you guys lock hands and charge a halfling.
I just mean walk very briskly at him
Okay.
and
I thought you meant,
imposingly.
run.
That's what I thought he was getting at too. Okay, then go ahead, both of you make a intimidation test.
Let's see.
So we're going to use your success levels for this. You turn and you start making your way towards him, walking briskly, hand in hand. And he looks up, and the first person he sees is Juliana, and he's startled. But then Lucian kind of stumbles, and Juliana slightly drags Lucian just a little bit as Lucien stumbles, and the little man snickers a little bit as he steps into a pile of mud. As Lucien steps into a pile of mud, and he snickers to himself, and he turns and starts walking off.
Yeah, Juliana will jostle Lucien a bit. You need to go faster. And she'll start walking at a faster pace, if not breaking into a bit of a jog.
Lucien just keeps pace, and
you guys start picking up your pace, and this little halfling, he's looking over his shoulder, and he raises his eyebrow as you start picking up your pace, and he picks up his pace and starts walking faster.
would it be possible to make like an intuition or perception check just to be sure that he's not trying to lead us into any kind of trap?
Sure, you can make the challenging perception test again.
I think I might fade it.
Really? How many do you guys know how many you have left?
I've only used one as far as I know.
Okay, that's fine. So you look around, and Lucien, as you look around, and he's picking up his pace, and you guys are picking up your pace, and he's kind of looking over his shoulder. You look around, and you see that you're just backtracking the way you came. You're not going anywhere new. You're not being led anywhere that you haven't seen or been already. You've been down these muddy roads, and you're almost like you're headed back towards the tavern.
Lucien just locks his feet and stands, and as Juliana continues, he just lets go of her hand, and he just begins to look around, almost confused.
Juliana stops when he lets go. She slows down a bit, coming to a bit of a halt, and turns around, looks at the man, looks at Lucien. What are you doing?
He's
And-
just
Go ahead.
he's just leading us back to the tavern, I think.
Oh,
And as you say that, you see him continuing to walk off in the distance, and he indeed, down the road, walks right back into the tavern.
I guess we can just follow him. I mean, we have to go there no matter what.
Well, might as well. She shrugs a bit and comes back to Lucien, taking his hand. What a strange man.
Very strange. And Lucien sort of picks his chin up a little bit and looks around and just continues to walk. And his lip sort of curls as he begins to take in and actually fully take in some of the smells and just the overall look, as it's really beginning to click in his head that this place is kind of a dump.
Okay, so you get your nostrils filled with the smell of animal dung and wet hay, crowded, sweaty people who haven't bathed in some time. you walk through and you make your way back towards the tavern. Is that what you're? Is that what
Yeah.
you're? Yeah.
Yep. And as soon as they walk into the tavern, Lucian looks around for the small man and looks to see if he's maybe sitting at a table or anything by himself.
Well, while you guys are standing out there deciding what it was that you were going to be doing, I'm going to do something different here. One second, please. So, Durak, you are sitting there eating your food and drinking your ale when a hobbit comes bursting through the doors, and he goes and sits at the table. He has a little bit of a grin on his face, and he snaps his fingers over at the barkeep, who quickly brings over a tankard of ale, and the halfling starts chugging the ale as he sits there grinning to himself, and he looks. You hear him talking to the barkeep. There's some crazy people out there. Just got chased down by a couple of Utah folk.
Durak's not really paying it too much mind at this point. He's continuing to drink probably his fourth and fifth pints right now, and just kind of minding his own business in the tavern, occasionally listening to what people have to say.
And the barkeep is talking to the hobbit there. I keep saying hobbit.
Same thing.
The
Same
halfling.
thing.
I know. But he keeps talking to the halfling there, and says, hey, "Yes, well, you've got to be careful. You could easily get trampled out there." And the little man says, "Yeah, I almost did get trampled. Large woman. She ran right at me. I don't know what's going on out there, but I'm not sure this is the place for me." So, well, you just be careful. And at that is when you two come back in, and you see him sitting over there. At the table, drinking his ale and leaning over and talking to the barkeep.
Juliana will. She's gonna unlock hands with Lucian and make her way with long strides over towards the bar. And she'll sit down right beside the halfling and look down on him. You're pretty fast.
Yeah, listen, lady. I don't know what you and your friend there have in mind, but I want no part of it. These are the ones I was talking about, Preston. And the barkeep looks over at you. These ones here, and the halfling, it just starts nodding.
Well, wouldn't have to chase someone like you if you weren't following us for a number of blocks as we walked. I mean, that's pretty suspicious in itself, no?
Following you? I don't know what you mean by that, following you. I haven't been following anyone. I went out to do something, and you chased me down.
Oh, something. And she kind of puts an elbow on the bar and looks over at him, kind of with fake intrigue. Oh, I wonder what that something was. It was great timing that you left exactly after us, and you were traveling in the same direction as us.
the whole time that we were walking aimlessly around. I mean, very, very interesting. As we were walking in circles a few of the times.
And he looks a little uncomfortable. Listen, lady, this is a huge city. We're bound to be running around and maybe bumping into each other. I can't tell you what I was doing out there, just as much as you can't tell me what you were doing. I don't know what happened, but yeah, you were chasing me down. That's what it all comes down to. And he looks over at the barkeep. These people were chasing me down.
This city is as big as my toenail. And he gets up. Durek's gonna get up off the stool he was at and walk over, seeing that there's something developing here. And he walks over, puts his mug on the table. Now look, if you're following him, say why. Don't break your fingers.
And he stands up and his eyes are a little wide, looking at you. Now listen here, Stunty. I don't want any trouble.
Stunty, is it? You're about half my size. What does that make you then, a rat?
And he stands up and he straightens his back up. Half your size. I'm at least 2/3 your size.
You can be 1/3 if you keep at it. You swit. What are you on about now? Come on.
And the barkeep looks over at this and says, remember when I said Captain Frisch was a good man and he never broke anything in my bar?
Of course, Doc, if you want to do something, do it outside.
Hey, I'm not good and I'm not a manling. But I do break things. Broken lots of things. Some of them not living even. Go on then. Stunty. You want to take a step outside or you want to start talking sense?
And the halfling looks at you and he looks over at the barkeep. And that's when Glinda walks over. And she has a tankard in her hand. And she sets it. She walks right in between you guys, and she sets the tankard down and pushes it towards the halfling. And she leans over and looks directly at you, Dorak, and says, "I'll be bringing you another one, Master Dwarf, if you wouldn't mind having a seat back at your table."
No, I think I'm cutting myself off. Appreciate it though, love.
And she nods and turns and walks away.
So, I think I asked you a question, little one. Why are you following my friends?
Following them? I wasn't following them. I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, you very much were following us. It's hard to miss you even though you're so close to the ground.
One second here. And a halfling, you can tell he's getting flustered, and he's becoming frustrated. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't following anyone. Those two savages, they ran at me. They ran at me with this look of savagery in their eyes. I knew they were gonna kill me if they caught me, so I ran in here for safety.
Oh, really? You mean the tavern that we were just at? That's, well, both of us were at, and I very much noticed you looking towards us when we entered, and when we were sitting there and getting drinks. Also noticed you, when you were following us.
Of course, you would come back to this particular tavern for safety when we were here in the first place. That makes perfect sense.
And after she finishes saying that, Lucian sits down immediately on the other side of the dwarf. So now it goes Lucian dwarf, the halfling. So it goes Lucian halfling, and then Juliana. And Lucian puts his hand up as to signal the barmaiden, and puts up 2 fingers, and he turns to the halfling. Let's cut the shit. What is it that you want?
And he turns and just gives you a kind of squinched up face. What is it I want? I want to be left alone, of course. I want to have my drink in peace instead of having you 3 surrounding me and breathing your stinking breath down on top of me.
Well, we want to be left alone just as much as you. However, you seem to have been following us. You came from the same tavern. You followed us. Not just at random. It wasn't just aimless wandering on your part and we crossed paths. You stayed at a certain distance behind us at all times. Tell us why.
And go ahead and make an intimidation test, a challenging... it's intimidation, right? Yeah. And as you get closer to his face and kind of lean up onto the bench, and he has the dwarf slayer on one end and Juliana confronting him, he sits down and he kind of just hunches back a little bit, picks up his tankard and takes a drink of it. Well, if you must know, I was just curious. I was curious to see if maybe there was anything I could maybe pick up from you 3. That dwarf walks in here, flashing a bag full of gold. What did you think would happen?
Thought you'd mind your own business and keep your head in your cups like everybody else here before I smash it in 2. And you should do so if you don't want to be smashed in 2 pieces.
It's too late. You've already flashed that gold, dwarf. Don't you think everyone who was in this room saw that? Saw you putting that gold coin on there, that bag full of gold coins? Really? You don't know any better than that?
Well, to be honest and to be fair, how many of them do you see approaching any of us? Only you were the one so stupid as to try and pick up anything from us.
Yes, well, I'm the only one smart enough to not cut your throat for it.
Oh, you can go ahead and try. You know where I'm staying. I'll even be in the commons for you. Please do. Please. Always looking for entertainment.
And I mean no offense when I say this, but even if you were standing on top of that table, I still don't think you could reach my neck.
Yes, well, like I said, I'm not the one that would cut your throat. Flashing gold like that is an easy way to have that done by other people that don't mind doing that kind of thing. They don't mind the blood, don't mind getting their hands dirty. I was just gonna maybe pick up a silver or 2 that you happen to drop. Others, and he leans down and whispers a little bit, others around here don't mind being mean.
Let him try. I'm done with him. He grabs his cup off the bar, and he goes back and sits at his table.
And as Durak gets up to leave, Lucian actually stands up and slides so that he's directly facing the small halfling now. And He's looks at the halfling and he begins to talk and then he stops for a moment and thinks, I think you may be able to pick up some silver. I'd be willing to pay you for some information.
And he looks confused, and he looks at you, Juliana, and he looks back at you, Lucian, and then back at you, Juliana. Is this guy serious?
Juliana looks to Lucian and wrinkles her nose at him, looking back down to the halfling. At the time, I do not know what he is talking about. Barkeep, do you mind giving me another ale? I'm going to sit with my friend.
And the barkeep, he walks over and he hands you your ale. Yes, of course. I appreciate that so far. Nothing is broken. And he turns around and walks back towards the bar, leaving Lucian and the halfling sitting alone at the table together.
As Juliana gets up and walks away, Lucian just watches her as she goes and then turns back to the halfling. Yes, just some general information, really. What do you know, and what are the normal ongoings for this little city?
The ongoings for this little city. Well, there's really not a whole lot going on in this little city. It's a stopping point, a stepping stone. Everyone around here is trying to get to Mordheim or get home from Mordheim. No one's staying here. I don't know what your interest in this city is. I don't even know why we're calling it a city. It's a muddy village. It just happens to be in a good location. Give it another year, maybe you can call it a city with enough travelers and enough money coming through. But right now, there's nothing happening here.
Lucian just shrugs and nods. I think you're quite right. I'm actually curious, how keen are your eyes?
My eyes, they're keen enough. I
Would you-
saw that gold even before he opened that bag. I saw the heft of it as he pulled it out. I noticed most things. Even when you spotted me, I knew you had spotted me. That's why I stopped and turned.
Would you be able to remember a face if you had seen one?
A face, well, I see lots of faces. If it's distinctive enough, yeah, sure, I guess I'd remember it.
This one may be distinctive in certain garment that he may have been wearing, certain trinkets, and he may have been flashing a little bit of gold himself.
Yeah, okay, so who is it?
Lucian gives a very detailed description of Friedrich's face and explains the ring that he may have been wearing. Does any of that stir any memories?
And he, as you're explaining it, he drink of his ale, and he's kind of tapping his chin just a little bit. And finally, when you get done,
No, I don't recall anyone that goes by that description. That could be anyone coming through here.
Perhaps, yes. Perhaps it could be no one coming through here.
Well, like I said, if there was distinctive, someone asked about a slayer, well, of course I'd be able to describe your friend to him. You, on the other hand, you might just be another face in the crowd.
Lucian strokes his chin. He goes, "Really? I've always been told I'm quite attractive," and he flashes just a stupid grin.
And he just takes a drink and shrugs his shoulder at that.
I assume you're headed to Mordheim.
Possibly. What's it to you?
And he looks around again. And he makes sure that it's no one's listening. You guys are just talking to each other now. Everyone appears to be going about their own business. And he says,
I don't know how much you know about Mordheim. The destruction that took place. It might be a hard place to navigate. I think I might know a way to help you. But I need your help as well.
I'm listening.
and he looks around again.
I need some help acquiring a couple of things. If I can get them, well, there's a map of Mordheim in it for you. An updated map. A map that shows what roads have been blocked and destroyed, what paths you can't take, which ones you can take. For some people, it saves weeks of travel time getting through the city. For some people, a map like that would save their lives.
Hearing this, Lucian sits back a little bit from the table and crosses his arm, brings his one hand up and begins to stroke his chin a little bit, and he begins to think. And then leans back forward. And what is it these items are that you need?
I just need a couple of apothecary jars. They're, unfortunately, currently, right now, locked away.
Locked away where?
Well, I have to know that we have a deal before I tell you any more.
I think I'd like to maybe have a glance at this map before I accept any deals myself.
Well, you see, the map is with the jars. You get the jars, you get the map.
And why is it exactly that you actually require our help? I mean, someone small like yourself and probably nimble, easy to sneak into areas, yes?
Yeah, that's true. But sometimes it doesn't hurt to have someone a little bigger helping you out sometimes, as much as I hate to admit it. If it comes down to a confrontation, well, and he looks down. I talk big, but I'm not really, that big. If you haven't noticed.
I had actually noticed. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Oh, me? I'm Edbun Stoutfist.
And he smiles when he says his name.
Lucian puts his hand over his mouth as he tries to stifle a small chuckle and looks back at Edburn No doubt you're very pleased with this name.
Are you pleased with your name?
Ah, yes, I'm sorry. I'm Lucian Pettibone. And Lucian will extend his hand to the half.
And he puts his hand out and goes to shake it. And as he does, as he brings his hand back, he just laughs.
Pettibone. That's a funny name.
Yeah, you're not entirely wrong, but our names detail where we come from.
And Juliana and Durak, I want you guys to make a perception test. Since Lucian is enthralled in conversation here, not make the same test. You guys, as you're sitting there having your drinks, not really listening in on what Lucian is doing or talking about, just kind of rolling your eyes. You notice a woman sitting over by the fire, and she's obviously intently trying to listen in to the conversation that you guys are having, and you notice that.
And Durak's gonna see it and look over and trace the woman's eyes, and then look at Juliana, seeing that. I'm assuming seeing that she's seeing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she looks over to the woman, looks over to Durak.
Are you gonna go tell the Wazik, or should I?
Oh, well, if you want to, I'm only about 3/4 of the way through this. She takes another drink.
I suppose I got you beat by 6 points. He puts the empty pint down. Get up and trundle over. Put a big meaty paw on Lucian's shoulder. Oi, manling.
Lucian arcs an eyebrow and turns his head to the side to look over to Durak. Yes?
The woman laying next to the fire, and he's trying to talk as low as he can, but he's a bit of a rumbler. She's taking keen interest in your dealings.
Lucian does his best to look over Durak's shoulder to see the lady, and then turns to Edburn. A friend of yours?
And he cranes and arches to and stretches to just even look over your shoulder, and then sits back down.
Nah, saw her for the first time this morning. Don't know who she is. Just someone passing through like the rest of you, I guess.
Well, Edburn, I think you and I have an accord, and we will have to set up details at a different time and different place so as to not draw more unwanted attention.
Yeah, well, where's this other time and other place?
Just go to your room, manling.
Exactly, that's what I was implying, but meet me in whatever the room number room is. Meet me at this room in about an hour and a half. Do your best not to be noticed.
And he suspiciously looks at you, looks you up and down, and then he looks over at the at the dwarf and Juliana.
All right then. We'll meet up later. I'll tell you what I'm looking for. You let me know if you want that map.
And he gets up to walk out of the tavern.
Lucian turns to face Durak and then stands up from the table and looks over to Juliana and begins to casually walk toward her.
Juliana stays sitting and she looks up at Lucian with a smile. Five.
Okay, and we are back. This is part 2 of the session. This session is being combined with what you just previously heard. We had to break it up into 2 different sessions for different reasons. And unfortunately, we are back this time, and I have a little bit of a cold, so that's why my voice sounds the way it does. But as you just heard, Lucian was going to make arrangements, make plans with Mr. Stoutfist, and sounds like Juliana and Durak overheard or noticed someone trying to eavesdrop on their conversations. And that's essentially where we're going to pick it back up.
So Lucian, having just concluded his business with Mr. Stoutfist, stands up and makes his way over to the other two, sits down beside.
And Juliana takes another drink of her ale that she has in her hands and looks over to Lucian. I'm assuming, since you are meeting later, that it was a good conversation?
Potentially, I mean, we'll see how everything plays out, but it sounds like he's got something very interesting that we are going to need. A map is...
Lucian. Maybe we should talk about these somewhere more private. She looks back at the woman. That way we confront her. See exactly what she wants, but last time we did that there was a bit of a ruckus.
You're right, of course. I was just a little bit excited at the possibilities.
Well, if it is as you say, what you speak, then it will at least provide us some guidance when we go.
Right you are, especially being updated, as it were.
So he says.
So he says, yeah.
Juliana looks back to the woman, takes another drink of her ale before setting it back down, looking towards the others. So shall we just wait the hour and a half here?
We can. It's entirely up to you, unless there's something else you might want to attend. I can't imagine there's anything, but it's of course your prerogative.
Well, honestly, I'm just waiting to see who else from our ship comes into here.
This all, I guess that's all we have to do anyway. I mean, all of it is just waiting for night, for an evening, getting supplies, and then any dealings.
Yes, pretty much. Just getting. We already got the food, correct? Or do we still need to acquire that from the barkeep?
They were going to have it ready for us in the morning, as I recall.
Ah, yes, yes, I remember. And Juliana sits back and she motions over to the one of the serving girls to come over.
Yeah, and let me pull this up. And Glinda, she comes over to you guys. Yes, yes. Can I get you something?
Yes, can you get me another round for the table? On us, and she looks back to the woman, and one for her as well.
And Glinda gives a side glance to the other table where the woman is sitting, and she looks around. She looks at you and says, "Oh, of course, of course." And she runs off and grabs a tray of ales, drinks, brings them back, the tankards. She sets them down on the table. She slides them across the heavy oak, and they kind of scrape and scratch as they move across to you, jostling just a little bit, the froth pouring over the edge, and she smiles sheepishly as she then walks over and then takes the last tankard off of her tray and sets it down on the table for the woman across the room. And the woman across the room looks at her, and you can see that she's asking her something. And Glinda looks over at your table and kind of gives a nod in that direction. And the woman over there looks at the three of you. And she looks at the three of you. She raises an eyebrow and smiles, raises the tankard, and takes a drink.
Hey, Juliana's looked back at this point to make eye contact with the woman. She raises her own tankard, gives her a wink before taking a drink.
And she nods at you and just holds the smile while she takes a drink, and then wipes her mouth off with the back of her arm and puts the tankard down and goes back to doing whatever it is she was doing.
And Juliana... Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Durak, taking a drink of his ale, looks at Juliana and... Oh, so we're giving our enemies something to drink now.
Well, we don't exactly know if she's an enemy or not, but better to make friends than attempt to shoot them daggers with our eyes, yes?
These daggers when you have an axe. Takes a drink of his.
Well, we can use the axe if it is deemed necessary, but I'm guessing that you're going to be the one who wants to use the axe there, Doc.
Oh, usually not my best interest to kill a woman, but if she's a problem...
If someone is a problem, no matter what the sex is, I think they need to die.
Aye, on that we agree.
Juliana raises her own tankard up to Durak before taking a drink.
And as you are having this conversation, go ahead and everyone can make a perception tests.
Where's my button?
It's under P.
Okay, and it's obvious and easy to notice that as you're sitting around having conversation, drinking your ales, finishing your tankard, that she keeps stealing glances over in your direction.
Yeah, Juliana, after finishing about half of her tankard that she has, she'll look down at it and she'll get up from the seat, stretching her legs, I think I need to go for a very short walk.
Lucian just arcs an eyebrow at Juliana and shakes his head a little, and then just begins to chuckle to himself.
Juliana gets up from the seat and she actually walks right over to the table with the woman. Is she sitting with anybody else, or is it just her?
She's just sitting there by herself.
Yeah, Juliana walks over. She slides into the seat across from her and looks to the woman. You know, yes, that paintings actually do well to capture the memory of someone.
And she puts her tankard down and smiles, laughs just a little bit. Is that so? Well, maybe we should have you painted sometime.
Well, if you're offering, then I would take up on that.
Me? Oh, oh no, I can't paint to save my life. But, maybe someone in this little village could.
Yes, indeed. I'm guessing you are not from here?
And she looks around the room. No, I'm not from here. You see all those boats out there? I plan on returning to one of those tomorrow morning.
Oh, do you know exactly which one you're planning on returning to?
I don't know which one yet, but there's always someone looking to take on crew. I'm sure I can easily make my way onto a boat. I know my way around them.
Ah, is that how you came to be here in the first place? Finding your way onto boats?
Yes, well, I found my way onto one boat that took me to a town, and I found my way onto another that took me to another town, and eventually all the boats led here, and then at some point I'm sure they will be headed to Mordheim.
And that is where you plan on going, isn't it?
Well, it is. I have to admit I heard you talking, and you sound as though you were maybe going that direction or the other direction. I don't know. I heard you mentioning something about boats, and, well, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention, but most people who come through here, that's where they're going. So I assumed.
Well, you might have assumed correctly. I hear that the supposed captain of the ship that we are on is looking for crew at the moment.
Your captain is looking for crew. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And who is your captain?
She looks around, seeing if Frisch is coming in here at all yet.
You don't see him in the room.
Yeah, she leans back and looks her head around from left to right, leaning back forward and taking a drink from her tankard. Well, he is frequent usually in this bar, but I'm assuming you would not know him by name, so it is pointless to tell you as such. But
No, I may not know him by name, but it is a name I can ask for in the morning. No, true?
True, but we are leaving in the morning.
Yes, well, if I ask the right person, maybe your captain, I will be as well.
They should be coming in here very soon. I do not know how long it is going to take the captain to get here, but depending, I could maybe introduce you.
Well, I would love that. Please do introduce me if he does show up.
You know, I'd love to introduce you. Unfortunately, I don't know your name.
Oh, me. Well, you can see that she feels a little put on the spot when you ask her name. Go ahead and make what's a good one for
I could recommend intuition.
Intuition, yep. Go ahead and make an
Unless there's something
intuition
more specific than that for
test.
skills.
No,
Intuition
is perfect. You're not sure why she kind of has this long pause, but then she says, "My name is Margaret," and you have no reason to disbelieve her, so you take her at her word. Her name is Margaret.
Margaret, that is a very lovely name. I'm Juliana.
And Margaret looks at you and nods and smiles as she takes a sip of her drink. It's a pleasure to meet you, Juliana.
You as well. No, there was something I did want to ask. Are you just ship hopping from time to time in order to get to Mordheim, or is it that you're sneaking onto vessels in order to get there?
Go ahead and make another intuition check.
Oh,
Well, whatever do you mean? Of course I'm being hired to work on these ships. Sneaking onto vessels, I don't know where I would hide. These are riverboats after all. They aren't ocean vessels. They're not large enough to hide on.
my apologies. And she looks down around now. I've had a few drinks, and sometimes you can't be too careful when you're speaking to people.
And when you say that, she puts her finger up and kind of waves Glinda over. And she just nods at Glinda, and Glinda puts another tankard down in front of you and walks away.
She raises an eyebrow and looks to her. No, you're trying to get me more intoxicated, Margaret.
No, of course I wouldn't do that. You have to be up early tomorrow. I have to be up early tomorrow. I have no reason to get you intoxicated. I believe that we could be friends, even if you were sober.
I'd like that. And she takes a drink from the ale and looks over at the other two, looking to Lucy and then looking to Doc at the bar, before looking back at Margaret. The name of the captain is Fresh.
Captain Frisch.
Yes.
Well, you will point him out when he comes in, won't you?
Of course. Though I did want to ask, why did you want to go to Mordheim? I know many people do want to go there in the first place, but I'm just curious as to why you want to go.
And she looks around. She lowers her head. She leans in on the table. Both elbows, arms, leaning into the table, and she leans in close to you when you ask that. You can smell the L on her breath as she leans in, and she says, "People are getting rich there. Have you heard of the stone?"
I've heard of a few stones that have been there. I'm assuming you're looking for one of those clean ones.
And
Is that
she
correct?
looks around when you say that, and she puts her hand up. Shh, shh. Yes, the green ones. They are worth quite a bit of coin.
Well, I did hear a few rumors of that. It's actually why we are going as well.
And her eyes get wide, and she sits back. Really?
Yes.
You are also going for this stone?
Of course we are. Why else go to Mordheim?
Well, most people go to trade, to sell their wares. It's a regular wealth rush there. so many adventurers in place, you can take anything, and they need everything. So most people going are taking their supplies, food, weapons and armor, everything an adventurer would need, and they pay well for it because, well, there's no one else selling it there. So most merchants are sending groups of people with supplies, and the adventurers there, with what money they make off of, well, off of what they loot, off of what they take, maybe with some of the stones they find. They use it to buy gear, food, supplies, to go back in and hopefully find bigger, larger stones.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not a merchant then.
I have heard rumors of stones the size of a man
Oh my
buried
goodness.
underground, going in all directions. I mean, could you imagine the wealth that something like that might bring? And she's whispering again, leaning in.
Yeah, Julian is also leaning at this point. Same thing with her hands on the table, but she does take a quick drink of her ale as she leans very close to Margaret.
And one thing I would like to wonder with all these wondrous stones that could be out there is why you're going alone.
Well, I'm not going alone. Hopefully, I'm going with Captain Frisch and you.
True, but I mean once you get there, you'll be alone.
Well, Juliana, I am sure you have noticed that a young, attractive woman who needs help is sometimes able to find help without any issues.
Ah, like just now.
Is that what happened here?
Maybe. Maybe you caught my eye by staring at me and my companions.
When you say that, she puts her hand up and brushes a loose hair off of your face, and then kind of bites her bottom lip a little bit and looks away and takes a drink of her ale.
Juliana sits back up and smiles at Margaret. Embarrassed, are we?
No, not embarrassed. It was just so forward. I apologize.
Ah, well, I'll make sure not to be too forward if that bothers you.
I'm drunk. I don't know what I'm saying or doing. Please forgive me.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Juliana kind of reaches out a hand and pats Margaret's.
Don't have to worry.
And as they're talking, what are Lucian and Duroc doing?
Duroc is oh, go ahead, dude.
Lucian is just watching this conversation unfold and doing his best to try and eavesdrop on what's going on.
Go ahead and make a perception test without the plus 20. Yeah, you're trying to eavesdrop, but between the ales, between the other patrons, between chairs getting pulled in and out and benches scraping across the floor and music, you're having a difficult time hearing anything that's happening. You're not quite sure what the conversation is over there. Go ahead and make an intuition test, though. A standard intuition test, so with the plus 20. So you can't hear anything that's going on, but based on the body language, you have an idea of what's happening over there.
Okay. So yeah, he's just Lucian's just sitting and like I said, just doing the best that he can to try and follow along and understand by reading the body language and seeing Juliana's reaction to how, or rather, her responses and everything. Since he knows her obviously much better than this mystery woman.
Yeah, and you easily do that. You are able to see Juliana's body language, and you know what she looks like when she's flirtatious. As she smiles and drinks the ale, and you can hear her laugh here and there. The looks she's giving, you know she's obviously being flirtatious. And what's Duroc doing?
Duroc, uninterested in the manlings, whatever they're doing, is just trying to look to keep himself in some sort of decent shape and practice. So he goes over to the barkeep and kind of raps on the counter a bit, trying to get his attention.
And Arnold, he looks at you. Yes, Master Dwarf. How can I help you?
Well, I'm in town for 1 year. I've got nothing to do. If you've got any cargo you need moved or anything done around here?
Cargo I need moved? Well, normally I would just have the girl here do it, but, well, I guess someone of your stature and size could probably do it a little easier. I do have some crates out back that need to be brought into the cellar. If you don't mind, I could give you the rest of your drinks in your room on the house. Did we already do that? In any case, I'd appreciate the help.
I'll be staying in the commons, but I don't mind having drinks and food on the house. I'll go move it.
Well, that's mighty generous of you. That's mighty generous of you, very much, Master Dwarf. Thank you very much. And he has Glinda show you where the crates are out back and where the cellar is and where they're, where he wants them stacked, where she wants them stacked. She just says, "Thank you, Master Dwarf. This would have been at the end of my evening. And now maybe when I get off, I can just go home and rest. I appreciate this."
It's just no bother.
And Glinda shows you where everything is, and you guys step out to do that. And Lucian, you see Duroc talking to the bartender, the barkeep, and then talking to the young lady, and all of a sudden he's going out the back door and disappearing.
Yeah, Lucian sees that and he just watches Duroc passing by with Glinda, and he actually thinks, well, good on him.
And as all of this is taking place, let me pull something else up here. You guys, the door opens and you see Captain Frisch walk in.
And Juliana, seeing Captain Frisch walk in, she actually looks to him and waves her arm over at him and beckons her hand, trying to get him to come towards her.
And Captain Frisch looks at you as you're beckoning, and he kind of grunts gruffly, nods at you, but walks by you and straight to the bar. And as he does, you can see him talking to Arnold at the bar, and he gets a tankard of ale. And then after he gets his tankard of ale, he turns around and walks back to you.
Yeah.
Yes, what is it?
Huh? I just wanted to know how the hunt for more crew has been going.
We are set. We have our 3 new crew members. They will be there bright and early tomorrow morning.
And she looks over at Margaret and just kind of shrugs her shoulders a little bit.
Yes, well, I don't know what any of this means. Was that you're just curious, I guess?
Yes, I thought I could help out maybe a little bit. I had met this woman here, but it seems like you're all full up.
And Captain Frisch looks over at her. Are you a sailor? And she says, well, I've helped on plenty of boat. But are you a sailor? Well, I've been on sailboats. And Frisch looks at you, takes a drink of his tanker, raises an eyebrow, shakes his head, and goes and sits down with Lucian.
And Juliana looks to Margaret. I thought you were a sailor.
Well, I never said I was a sailor. I said I've been on plenty of boats.
So you just wanted a free ride to Mordheim, is that it?
Well, and she looks at you, and she has her kind of nose down in the tankard, and she looks up at you, with her eyes over the tankard. Well, I do know how to tie a knot.
She'll take a drink at that.
And she takes her drink and sets it down. Well, I guess I should get some sleep then. Looks like I'll be needing to get up early. Look for a boat to book passage on.
Well, if you're looking to book passage, you can always speak with Captain Frisch about that. I know we've booked passage, and I'm not too sure if you could work it out with him since you want to go the same way we are, but unless you want to wake up early and go on the ship, which you're not sure the people that are on it.
And she looks at you and she looks over at the captain. He seems very gruff.
Yes, he has been so much in the past few days.
Well, I guess that's understandable. And she stands up. And as she stands up, she pushes away the bench she's sitting on. And she looks down at you. In any case, I'll need to be up early. And she starts to walk away, and as she does, she turns around and says, if you want to continue our conversation later, I'll be in my room. It's the 3rd private room, the hall up to the left in this inn. And she smiles at you as she starts walking towards the stairway leading up to the rooms above.
Juliana kind of puts an elbow on the table. And she uses her hand to support her head and just watches her make her way up the stairs before taking a long drink of the ale that she was bought. And she'll look over to Lucian sitting with Frisch, but not make her way back just yet.
And As Margaret gets to the doorway just before going up the stairs, she turns her head slightly and looks at you, smiles, and actually gives you a little wink, and then heads up the steps to her room.
Yeah, Yuliana's gonna keep drinking for a little bit.
So, Lucian, Captain Frisch has sat down with you. Well, I hope you're going to be ready for tomorrow.
Of course. We'll be ready.
Don't forget what I said. We are leaving bright and early.
Lucian just smiles and gives a nod. Bright and early. Of course. We'll be there.
And then Captain Frisch looks around. He looks over at Arnold and calls over another round. And he brings over 2 tankards for you and him.
I thank you for that. It's a kind gesture, especially seeing as how I'm actually paying you for passage.
Yes, well, my understanding is you're not paying me at all for passage. Your man did that back in Altdorf.
Yes, well, either way we are paid passengers.
Just drink your drink. Enjoy it. It won't be long before we're in Mordheim. We're only, I'd say, 2-3 days out from here. Depends on the wind. We should be there soon.
Lucian's still wearing a half grin, just gives another small nod. Aye, Captain. Of course. I'll drink this drink.
It only gets more dangerous from here. Bloody pirates. They feel like once you get closer to Mordheim, there are no vessels to protect you. There's no military. Nothing. No one. You're sitting duck out there. They take every advantage.
Yeah. We are anticipating this, and I'd say we're very lucky to have booked passage aboard this ship of all ships, as you all seem so very capable, and you especially, Captain.
They might give me the creeps, but I'd prefer to have that high elf patrol boat following us. With them next to us, I don't think any pirates would dare attack.
And Lucian sort of takes a second, and he looks around and meets the captain's eyes again. I think you're right, Captain. As much as it might be a little bit unnerving, it still would provide a great deal of safety in our passage.
And as you're talking, it's been about an hour and a half now. And Stout Fist walks back in, and he looks at you, and he laughs a little bit as he looks at Frisch, and he laughs and he sits down. He waves over Arnold, who brings him a tankard of ale. Is this a joke, or do you two know each other?
There's no joke. And I'm sorry, but I fail to see the humor.
And Frisch looks at you. Do you two know each other?
Only just acquainted, actually.
And Stout Fist just starts laughing as he takes a drink of his ale. Is this your captain, Captain Frisch?
It is indeed, Captain Frisch.
And he laughs and takes a drink of his ale again and slams it down. Well, I'm new crew on your boat. You're going to be working with me.
Well, then... working together, not... We won't be working with you, it'll be working together on the ship, I'm sure.
Together, well, I kind of thought that was the same as with me. But hey, we're all going to be working together. Where's the other one? Where's the ugly dwarf? The angry one? He's going to love this.
I'm sure it won't bother him very much, actually.
And he takes a drink of his ale. Yeah, it won't bother him at all.
And Lucian looks over toward Juliana, noticing that she hasn't made her way back over to the table yet. And he just waits for her to come over and join.
And Juliana kind of snaps out of looking up towards Margaret's door. She gets up from the table and makes her way over, sitting beside Lucian and taking another drink.
And as you take a drink, you see Captain Frisch is there, and that the halfling that you had met earlier tailing you is there.
Lucian meets eyes with Juliana as she's sitting down, and he has a smile on his face, and he just does a small point over to the halfling. I'd like to introduce you to our new crew member, Edburn Stoutfist, I believe it was, yes?
Wait. This one's coming with us.
And he stands up on the bench. That's right. Edburn Stoutfist, you got that correct, Lucian. And yes, lady, I am coming with you.
Why?
And Frisch, who hasn't really been paying attention to the conversation, hears that part of why and looks over at you. Because he knows how to use black powder.
Oh.
I lost my second mate and friend who is the best at running those cannons, no matter how crap they are. I need someone to replace him, or at least his skills. And Stoutfist looks over you. That's right, lady. I know how to use the black powder. The mage's dust.
Well, that is honestly most impressive. I look forward to traveling with you then, Studfist, and hopefully not chasing you all over town.
And he laughs as he takes a swig off of his tankard and leans back, still standing on the bench. But standing on the bench, he's, still just barely taller than you guys. Yes, well, hopefully you don't need my services. If I'm firing off black powder, well then, things could be better, I guess.
Well, at least we'll have now someone to man those cannons, so we are happy to have you, to travel with you for the brief time that we are going to be traveling to Mordheim.
And Duroc, the crates and everything are done loading.
Yeah, so Duroc comes back in and just kind of wipes his hands together. Is surprised at how heavy a barrel of butter could be, but so be it. And sees everybody gathering there and just finds a seat, sits down.
And when you walk in and you walk towards the table, you see that Captain Frisch has arrived. Juliana's back at the table, and that little hobbit or that little halfling is also back, and you see him standing on the bench.
Yeah, just look at him, shoot him a glare. Keeping this kind of company now, are we?
And Frisch looks at you. What do you mean?
This little runt was apparently tailing the two of them, planning to rob him.
And Edburn looks at you. That's a lie.
You said it to our faces you were going to steal our coins.
Well, that's a lie too.
I can ask the bartender if you'd like. He was there.
And
Hey, good
Edburn-
honest man, the bartender is. You call him a liar.
Edburn looks over at the bartender. Nah, the man is old. Anyhow, I don't know what led to this conversation. I'm gonna be working with you on the boat. Isn't that great news, dwarf?
Aye, for me it's great news. It means I have someone to strangle to death, in case you piss me off.
And Frisch looks over at you. Well, I hope that's in jest, and that you aren't really going to strangle this halfling to death. He knows how to use black powder, and we are going into dangerous waters. We may need his skills. He may end up saving your ass.
Doesn't need to worry about saving me, but if you say so. Takes a drink from his ale. Alright, well, if he causes me that much bother, I'll wait till we're done traveling, I suppose.
When you two are no longer on my boat, then you can hash out your differences. Do you understand?
Fine by me, manling. I mean, sir.
And Edburn looks over at him. Hey, I've got nothing to hash out with the dwarf. And he looks over at you and winks as he takes a drink of his ale.
Durak just shakes his head and goes back into his cups.
And as you guys start finishing your drinks, fewer people are coming in, more people are walking out, and it gets later and later until you're the only table of people still sitting here drinking ale, eating snacks and meats and cheeses and fruits on trays. And Frisch stands up. We've got an early morning tomorrow. Sunrise. We're gonna start setting sail. I'll be there. We'll find your own passage.
We'll make sure to be there, Captain.
And he nods to you. I hope so. I would hate to leave you here, but I will. And he looks over at Edburn. And you better be there. Edburn looks over at him. Of course, Captain. I can't wait. I'll be at your side on that ship with these fine people over here as he waves his hand with the tankard across the table to the three of you. It's gonna be fun. And Frisch looks down at him. I wouldn't say anything about this trip has been fun. I'll see you all in the morning. And he nods and stands up and starts walking away from the table.
Juliana looks to Lucien. Maybe you two should have that conversation about that map since there's not many people around.
I was thinking something similar, actually, but even still, being a little more privacy, I think we can find someplace a little more discreet than this even.
True. Though she pauses for a moment, I'm a bit concerned about that woman earlier. She also is going to Mordheim, or at least plans on it, and I'm sure she wants to get her hands on that map. I'm not sure if she overheard too much or been able to discern where it is by the two of you talking. I might go check on her.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
Aye, well, in case she is overheard or something like that, someone needs to make sure that we get the map.
Director shakes his head and goes back into his drink again.
Lucian faces Juliana and grabs her by the wrist, just pulls her in. Are you sure about this? About doing this?
Yes, I'm very sure. What do you mean?
We don't know anything about her. You know that she's going to Mordheim, sure. That's it. Perhaps she's anticipating that you might go out there and seek her out, or try to watch her. And she may have something set up, an ambush or something.
An ambush in her
worried.
room?
Perhaps, you never know.
And Juliana just smiles and laughs a bit.
Well, if there's an ambush in her room, I'm sure it'll be a welcome one.
And she just smiles and drinks her ale.
But I think the two of you should probably discuss details and get out as quickly as possible, if you plan on doing it.
I can't hear you at all, TD.
Are you there, dude?
I can't hear you.
Can't hear him.
Uh-oh.
TD! There's nothing. You're just lighting up because you're just pushing. Yeah, we can't hear you at all. You're just lighting up because of push to talk, but your mic isn't actually coming through.
There it is. The moment everyone was expecting.
Oh no. You're there. Still nothing.
Nada, nothing.
I wasn't talking.
Oh, we just want to make sure.
Well,
Are
that
you
should have been the
supposed
first
to
thing
check?
you tested out when you came back in.
I was going to check to see if my settings didn't somehow change.
Yeah, I don't know what you said after when I said if it's an ambush, then it'll be a welcome one.
Yeah, Lucian just chuckled. Well, if you insist, then.
Well,
Yes, I think it's time that the two of you get down to business, figuring out if you want that map or not. But I don't want you risking anything unnecessarily. Okay?
Of course, my love, I understand.
Good. If things get too dangerous or the job is too dangerous, then I would suggest we just find our own way at Mordheim, okay?
Lucian just looks at her and smiles and nods. Oh, of course, of course.
Good.
and she'll lean forward and give him a kiss before getting up from the table and heading upstairs.
Lucian just takes his time, watches Juliana as she leaves, and takes it in, and watches a little longer, and then turns to Edburn. All right, we've got business.
And Lucian, as you turn to Edburn and start talking about that, Dorok, you're sitting there at the table. What is it? What is your intent? What are you going to do?
Oh, probably just hang about with any ship crew that I see, not including the elf, of course, and then eventually go to sleep in the commons.
Are you going to stay and listen to Edburn's and Lucian's conversation?
My understanding was they were going to the room, which I wasn't going to be a part of that.
Oh, okay. My understanding was that since the tavern is more quiet now, they were going to have the conversation here.
No, we're still gonna try and find some place a little more discreet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
Durek would sit there and, I'll be about if you need me, manling. Just come running and screaming like you do.
I don't recall that, but I will run and scream, as you said.
Aye, just giving you a bit of grief.
I know.
okay.
Of course.
So you two wander off, and Lucian, you do have a private room here at the tavern, at the inn, whereas Stoutfist does not. He's in the common room, and there are several people sleeping in the common room.
Right. So Lucian would at least invite him to the private room to just conclude at least this part of the business transaction, as it were.
Okay. So let me get rid of some of these people here, as I didn't have a private room ready for you. So you and Stoutfist make your way to your room. You look around, making sure no one's following you as you let yourself into the room. Stoutfist following behind you, who also looks around to make sure that no one is following. And once you're in the room, he says, "All right, so this is the deal. The good doctor of the village here, the town, wherever this place is building up into, I sold him the map. He paid good money for it. So that's why I know he has it, and that's why I know it's legit. Because I got it for him. Now, he's got a couple of other things that I need. And I need your help getting in. Being a little bit of backup, you're a little bigger than me. Maybe a little better with a sword, I don't know. But I'd rather have you there than not. Be my backup, you get the map. It's that easy."
And what happens if we're happened upon?
Well, I don't know what happens to you, but I run.
Okay, sounds like a deal. Let me ask you something. How fast do you run?
Well, you and your lady friend didn't catch me earlier.
That's only because you're small stature and you're able to meander through the legs and a little more easily. In a wide open street, probably not as fast. I only need to know so that if I have to, I'm going to throw you down and leave you to the wolves, so to speak.
And he walks over to the window when you say that, and he looks out the thick-paned window down on the street. It's dark. There's no one about. And he says, "Wide open streets, those streets down there." And he laughs to himself. There are alleys, shadows, the streets wind, there are many buildings, doors. I'll have no problem hiding if someone comes around.
All right. Let's not sit here and bicker over this. Let's be on.
All right, I just need to make sure that you're up for this.
I'm ready. Let's get this map.
Very well. And Dorok, as you're sitting there kind of lazily drinking whatever number ale this is, you see Lucian and the halfling stand up and walk out of the inn.
Yeah, Duroc takes note of it, but he figures if Lucian needed his help, he would ask him. So he just kind of shrugs about it and goes back to drinking his ale.
And as you're drinking your ale, you look around, and other than Arnault, who occasionally walks slowly by from the bar into the back room area, grabbing dishes and tankards, empty tankards off of tables, which he's now starting to wipe up. You look around, and you are the only person in the tavern now.
Yeah, so he looks around and... guess the crew's not drinking then. He takes another drink from it. Right, barkeep, what time of night you got?
And Arnold comes out when you call the barkeep. Well, it's and he looks out the door and tries to look under the beam, the awning. Well, I'd say it's pretty late. It's past the witching hour for sure. The moon's high, and it's going to be setting soon. The water's still. Even the dogs are quiet. If you listen, I don't hear them barking anymore. I'm going to say it's getting pretty late in the night here, Master Dwarf.
Hey. How much later are you going to have the doors open?
Well, the doors stay open for the most part. As long as someone is awake down here and drinking, I'm down here serving. If you were the last one to leave, well then I would lock everything up and I would head out myself.
Alright. Stands up. Well, I was going to go for a walk, but I suppose I'll start settling into the commons.
Well, yes, Master Dwarf, you could have the commons. Absolutely. I hate that you have to sleep in the commons. I wish you'd let me give you one of the rooms, but you don't seem too keen on it, so the commons it is.
Aye, too many comfy beds. Makes your spine soft. couldn't handle it. Cummins will do for me.
Very well, Master Dwarf. Well, it's right upstairs and to the right. You'll run right into him.
Thanks, Manling. Have a good eve.
And he smiles and nods at you. You can eyes are a little tired as he's starting to put tankards away. And you head up the stairs to the common room. Arnold goes about the inn, picking up all the dishes and tankards and wiping the tables off. He stokes the fire just a little bit more. He looks out the door as he walks up to it and looks down the roadway, looks all around. The cool air hits him in the face. He takes a little bit of a sigh and closes the door and locks it. And after he locks it, he heads off to his own room. And a little bit earlier than that, Juliana, you made your way up and you found the room that Margaret was talking about. You stand outside the room. It's a heavy wooden door with an iron latch on it. You stand out there. You can hear music coming from downstairs. You can still hear some people drinking. This is before everything had closed. And you're standing outside the door now.
And Yuliana takes a moment and she takes a few deep breaths before putting on a smile and knocking on the door.
And as you knock on the door, Margaret answers the door. When she answers the door, she smiles when she sees that it's you. Come in. Come in. I'm glad you decided to show.
Of course. And Yuliana will look back into the hallway before making her way into Margaret's room.
And Margaret walks over to a little table, and she picks up a bottle of wine and pours it into a cup and brings it over and hands it to you.
Yuliana will take it and she'll cheers with Margaret before taking a few sips of the wine. I see you've already prepared, or were you saving that for a special occasion?
Well, a little wine before bed. It's a treat that I try to give myself on occasion. This just seemed like the best opportunity for it.
Well, it does seem like a very good occasion for wine, though most times are. And Yuliana makes her way over to one of the beds, taking a seat. She looks up to Margaret. I am sorry that I couldn't get you passage with my captain.
And as you say that, she walks up and puts her finger on your lips and says, "Shh, that doesn't matter. I'm just glad you're here now."
Oh, alright. She smiles up to Margaret and taps the seat beside her.
And Margaret sets the wine down, her cup down on the table, and makes her way over towards you and sits down. She sits down and she looks over at you, and she bites her bottom lip and she smiles. As she smiles, she puts her hand on the side of your face and pushes your hair back. As she pushes your hair back, she leans in to kiss you. And as she leans in to kiss you, the scene goes black and we go over to Lucian and Stoutfist. Lucian and Stoutfist. You've decided that you're going to go to the home of the good doctor, Dr. Gregson. There's a map there that Stoutfist wants, or there's something there that Stoutfist wants. And in payment for you joining him, there's a map there he's offering to you. And you guys make your way through the small town. You start walking through. A dog startles you at one moment, running by you. And then you find yourself standing outside of the doctor's small little humble house at the end of a long road, surrounded by little hovels and other wooden houses. And Stoutfist says, "This is it."
All right. How do we proceed?
And as he's saying that, you feel the wetness hit you as it starts to rain. Like, well, what do you mean? How do we proceed? We get in there. We look for his chest that he always locks everything up into, and then we take what we want and we leave. Have you never done this before?
I'm sorry. I'm not the master burglar here.
Well, did you just call me a master burglar? Well, that's great of you. Yeah. In any case, let's try and be quiet. The last thing we need is to get caught. Oh, I also probably should have told you, mentioned this. I think the doctor has a dog.
Well, I'd say it's a very good thing you're going in first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And he starts, 1 second. He starts looking around as he makes his way around the back of the house. And as he makes his way around the back, he looks around and he finds a back door and he waves you towards him.
Lucian looks around a little bit and then begins to make his way that way, trying to look nonchalant until he can maybe duck into some shadows.
And as you do, you're just walking. The road is empty. There's no one out. Again, you hear maybe the distant bark of a dog or the neighing of a horse. And you make your way over there. Stoutfist is there in the dark, the rain coming down. Not too hard. A soft rain, starting to make the ground muddy. And he looks over at you. Well, let's go ahead and come in here this way, I guess. And he looks down at the door and he looks around. Just keep a lookout. And as he looks down at the door, you can hear him fumbling with something, grabbing something, and you hear what sounds like clicking. And he curses under his breath. Let me try that again. And he looks around, and you can see now that he has some small steel rods that he's putting in the latch of the door.
Lucian just
And he curses under his breath again. This door. I don't know. I don't suppose you know how to do this, do you?
Unfortunately, it's not a skill I've acquired.
Yeah, well, here. Why don't you just keep looking that way? I thought I felt it move. Let me just hold this right there. And he's biting his lip, and he's swapping out one pick for another. And he looks up at you. Here's nothing. And you hear a click as the door inches open just a little bit. See, I knew we could do that.
All right. Get in there and see what you see.
And he walks in and he looks around the dark room. It's like, it's hard to see anything. It's dark in here. And you see him walk further in until he's all the way inside, and you're left standing outside.
Lucian sort of has his back against the wall next to the door as he was waiting for Edburn to pass through the doorway. And as Edburn finally makes his way inside, Lucian does a quick look up and down the street, see if anybody might be looking, and then backs his way in through the door and slowly and quietly closes it over.
Okay. So you make your way in. You gently pull the door shut behind you. As you turn around, you see Edburn walking around the room. He's looking under desks, and he's looking behind things. Like, it's got to be here somewhere. He keeps all of his things. Well, he keeps all of his things locked up in a chest. Just look for the chest.
Lucian puts his hand out to find the wall, just as sort of a guide, and begins to try and quietly make his way to any room or closer to a window where light might be shining in, to see if he can get a better understanding of the layout.
Yeah, and as you do, your eyes start adjusting. And as your eyes adjust, you see that there's a desk, that there's tables, that there are lots of books and papers scattered everywhere, some odds and ends. Go ahead and make a difficult perception test in the dark. So basically, the without the plus 20.
I think he needs his token.
His token's there.
Is it? I still see the other, like the room.
Yeah, I've got the seam of the
Oh,
door.
shit. I didn't move you guys.
No.
Oop.
There you are.
Oh, hey, here I am.
Yeah. And you stumble around the room a little bit in the dark, not spotting anything that looks like a locked chest or a locked cabinet. Um, and Edburn, as he's walking around, he trips over something, and a bunch of books crash to the floor, making a loud noise in here.
Lucian hears that and he freezes and begins to just listen, see if he can hear any floorboards creaking, any movement, any shuffling, anything like that to indicate that maybe somebody was aware that somebody is in the house.
Yep, go ahead and make a perception test to listen. So you stop in your tracks and you cock your head just a little bit. You look over and you see Edburn in the dark. He's got his hands up covering his mouth, his teeth clenched. But you don't hear anything.
Lucian, as he's looking over to Edburn, is just staring daggers through him at this point, and he begins to shake his head and under his breath begins cursing at the halfling, but not hearing anything or that may sound or seem like they are aware of the current happenings. He begins to continue his search.
So, as you continue to search around the room, maybe the adjacent, you've covered some area, even though it's dark. You can rule some stuff out because you've already been through it and fumbled through it. Go ahead and make another perception test with a plus 10 this time. So you start looking around the room and you start walking around one area of the desk, and pressed up right against the side of the desk, it almost looked like it was part of the desk, had books on it, papers around it. You notice a chest.
Lucian will bend down to examine the chest. About how big is it?
The chest is a decent sized chest. It's pressed up against the side of the desk. Like I said, it was covered with a bunch of stuff. And it's probably about 2.5 feet tall, pretty tall, and 3 to 4 feet wide. It's a decent sized chest.
Okay.
And you can see that it's, sturdy oak with iron bindings and an iron lock on.
Okay, and so Lucian will begin to examine it more closely, and he grabs the lock to inspect it to see and check the quality, and sees that it's of high quality. And he looks over to see if Edburn is anywhere within eyeshot.
Yeah, Edburn notices you bending down to examine something, which catches his attention, so he just comes over to you.
And Lucian just, as he picks his head up, he sees Edburn coming over. He points down, and as Edburn approaches, he just whispers, "Do you think you can get this open? I know you struggled a little bit with the door, but I'm hoping that your skills are better than they seemed."
Yes, well, yeah, this should be a piece of cake. This shouldn't be an issue at all.
And he looks around, and he reaches down and grabs his leather roll that has his lock-picking tools in it. And he unrolls it on the desk in front of him. And he looks at the tools inside. And he picks a couple of them out. He puts one in his mouth, and he puts another one behind his ear. And he picks a couple more out. Then he kneels down in front of the chest. And he inserts the first steel rod into the lock. And you can see him close his eyes, sigh deeply as he tries to pick the lock again. For some reason, that is showing up as a 31 as his skill, and that is not his skill. Even though I have it linked to his token, and it's not showing what his actual skill is, so I have to roll off the sheet. One moment. And so he looks down at you.
This is a difficult lock. It might take a minute.
And so basically, what happens here is he needs a success level of 4. Once he gets to, it's cumulative. Once he gets to a success level of 4, the lock is unlocked. And he puts the lockpick in, and you can see him kind of chewing on the other lockpick. The one behind his ear, just sitting there. And then there's the familiar click. And his eyes get wide, and he looks over at you.
That was easy.
And he laughs just a little bit as he steps up and pulls the lid of the chest up. As he pulls the lid of the chest up, he looks down and he says,
Just as I promised you.
And he reaches in and he pulls out a map case. Let me find it here. He pulls out a map case and he hands over what he says is the updated map of Mordheim. As a reminder to you, the destruction of Mordheim changed the face and the footprint of the city forever. This map has been meticulously transcribed from the notes of several adventurers over the course of the past year. It shows what routes are usable and which are impossible to pass. A map such as this would be coveted by any who dare adventure into the city of the damned. And he hands it over and smiles,
Just like I promised.
and as he hands it over to you, Lucian, you see a green glow coming out from under the map case. And he wraps his hand around something in there. And he pulls it up.
Ah, yes.
And he holds a green stone in his hand that has a faint glow to it. And he holds it up and he looks at it. He smiles again at you. He tosses it up in the air and catches it and sticks it into a pocket in his inside vest. And then he looks down and he grabs a couple of other things. You can see it's a corked bottle with a brown fluid inside, a thick viscous fluid. It doesn't move like water inside the bottle. The label is stained and smeared, making it unreadable. And he takes that and puts it into a bag around his back. And then finally, he reaches in and grabs a clay jar that has a rag sealed over it, and then another and another, until he has 4 of them. The size of a little larger than a fist. And he grabs them and gently puts them in his bag. And he looks at you.
Well, that's it. That's everything we need.
And you look down into the chest and you see that he's right. There's some papers in there. There's a writing utensil, but there doesn't seem to be anything else of any substance in there.
And Lucian, having seen Edburn take all this extra, or all these items from the chest, he kind of curls his lip in disgust, having seen the warp stone. And he just nods and begins to quietly make his way back out of the house.
Go ahead and make a stealth roll.
I'm gonna use a fate or whatever it is.
I believe it's fate, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And wow. As you guys stand up and go to walk out, you hear clink, 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 and Edburn trips over a little step stool that he wasn't aware of in the dark. And as he trips, he reaches out to steady himself, and as he does that, he grabs a tray that had a glass on it, and it falls. And as it falls, it crashes to the floor. and you hear barking.
Lucian just reaches down and snatches Edburn by the collar of his neck and just begins to bolt toward the door.
And you hear the barking get louder. And you hear the barking get louder. And as you grab Edburn by the collar and start heading towards the door, I want you to make an athletics check. You're able to grab Edburn securely around the collar and yank him towards the door. And as you yank him towards the door, he yells, "Careful! This stuff is fragile!" And he gets to his feet and starts running with you. And as he's running with you, trying to keep up with you holding on to him, he slips and falls again in the mud just outside the door. And the barking is getting louder.
Okay, and so Lucian hasn't let go at this point either, because Edburn said, "Oh, I could lose you," so he's not chancing that, unless the dog gets right up on him. So, is there any chance that I might be able to help catch him?
Sure, make a strength test. Yeah, he slips in the mud, and just the momentum of his fall, he yanks out of your grasp and falls to the ground into the mud. The rain's coming down. The streets are muddy now, and he's there, kneeling in the mud. He's got a bag across his back with the items in it, and he looks up at you. The barking is getting louder.
Yeah, Lucian stops as Edburn falls, and he quick extends a hand behind him to help Edburn back to his feet.
You reach your hand out, Edburn grabs it, and you help him back to his feet. And just as you both get back to your feet, you see a dog come running into the room that you just left. And is running towards the open door.
About how far from the door are we? Can we?
He slipped right outside the door.
Okay, so can we slam the door shut?
You can make an athletics check to try and reach the door and slam it shut before the dog gets to it. With the mud and the rain, you don't get the plus 20.
Okay, so that's even worse then.
Oh, was that your roll? The 73?
Yeah.
You go to slam the door shut, and as you slam the door shut, this dog comes running and leaps out on top of you. And he leaps out on top of you. He knocks you back into the mud.
Lucian's hand, as he is going down to the mud, he puts a hand behind him to try and brace his fall a little bit, and not being able to really catch himself, goes sliding into the mud, and with his other hand reaches for his axe, and anticipating that the dog's going to come around on him.
Go ahead and roll initiative. Dang.
Whoops, I did that wrong.
I'll say
Pretty
that.
sure.
Yeah.
20.
There it is.
Oh, I need to click on him and do it.
My fault. Force of habit. I just clicked in 20.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyhow, the dog will go last. It'll be you, Edburn, and the dog.
Okay, so having been knocked down into the mud, Lucian quickly scrambles to his feet and squares up on the dog with his axe in hand and begins to swing at it.
Okay. So it's melee versus melee. Go ahead and roll your weapon skill versus the dog's basic melee.
Is that with no modifier?
Yeah, there's never modifiers in combat. I mean, no bonus modifiers like the plus 20.
Okay. Just verifying.
Yep, and it's going to be your success level versus...
Did mine not roll?
I don't see it.
No. Oh, what the?
What the hell?
Are you clicking on your token?
Yeah, I am.
Weird.
It keeps giving me no character was found. I wonder if it's because I changed the name of it.
Probably.
Oh, did you change the name?
No.
It's got a full name now instead of Brother
Change it back.
Lucian. I forgot about.
Yeah, just click your... You can click your weapon skill off your sheet, too.
There, I promise.
Did you find it?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
it's just
there we go.
taking forever.
Okay. So you are quickly able to defend against him as he pushed you down, came back around towards you. You swung at him, and go ahead and hit your weapon to see where you hit him and how much damage you do.
It's running so janky right now.
Okay, that's... Yeah, you can roll your sword off your sheet.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. It's just taking me
okay.
forever to get there, so I apologize.
There you go. So you swing your sword down, and it hits the dog, and hear the dog yelp. And as the dog yelps, he licks the wound on its, left flank there, and looks at you and just starts growling and backing up. And then it's Edburn's turn. And Edburn sees you fighting this dog, and you see Edburn take off running.
Lucian, seeing Edburn take off, he curses under his breath, but he holds his ground against the dog, and he makes little feints at it, and makes almost little growls at it, trying to shoo it off or scare it off. Seeing that he's clearly got its attention now, and it's backing off him a little bit.
Yep, and as you do that, and the dog yelps, and he's been barking, you hear off in the distance, "Who is that? Who's there? Who is that?" And the dog's just growling and barking at you. And the dog passes its turn. It's not going to take it doesn't come in to attack you. It stands there growling at you.
Okay. Lucian takes a half step backward just to see how the dog is going to react.
And as you do that, the dog snarls and lunges forward at you.
Lucian will do what he can to fight it off and hit it with a uppercut or something.
Yep, go ahead and make a weapon skill. And as you step back and the dog snarls at you, lunges at you, it's right on top of you again. It's your turn. It's got you basically on the ground, and it's snarling and trying to claw at you and bite you.
Lucian's gonna try and put his axe in this dog's neck or hit it someplace vital. He's not interested in being here any longer.
Okay, go ahead and roll. Let me pull up the dog's melee. And with the angle that you're at on the ground, the dog on top of you, in close, snarling and snapping at you, the dog angry because you hit it already, blood coming out of its left shoulder. It's hard for you to get in quite the proper way and hit it. And it prevents you from striking it. And the dog snaps back at you again. And as he snaps back at you, he just snaps the air, not being able to get to you. And it's your turn again. Can we not hear him again? All right. He keeps dropping.
Oh no.
Oh,
we had the patented dog killer.
I know.
Where's Arda when you need her?
Oh, damn.
Okay, swinging at this dog.
Oof. So he's going to try and defend against that using his melee. And does not. So now you can use your weapon to see where you hit him for how much. And you get to add the success level. Doesn't matter, we're just looking at the hit. So your success level was +4. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. And with the dog on top of you, snarling and snapping at you, you're able to swing towards it, and you hit it right in the chest. Explain what that looks like as the dog snarls and whimpers.
So the dog snapping and biting, and Lucian has his left hand up as he's trying to keep the jaws away from him. He's got his left arm, his forearm rather, pinned up against underneath the dog's chin and neck, just trying to push him up and push him away. And as he's doing so, the dog turns just right and presents a small opening where Lucian's able to swing his right hand and axe and drive it into the chest of the dog, and he hears a cracking and crunching sound, and the dog immediately begins to go limp, and he just rolls it off of him into the mud, removes his axe, and makes his way to his feet.
And you make your way to your feet, and you're back out in the town, walking through the little the small town. The dogs whimpering, coming to an end. Mud and rain and blood soaking you as the dog was on top of you when you killed it. And you're stumbling in the dark, in the rain, by yourself, and you hear from behind you, "What is it?" getting louder. As all of this was occurred in just a matter of moments, you hear someone in the house behind you yelling out.
Lucian wastes no time and darts for the nearest side alley, any place that's dark, just to try and...
Go ahead and make a stealth check with the +20. Actually, because it's dark and it's raining and there's lots of alleys, you can make it at a +30. So you are quickly able to find an alley across from where you just were that leads around a back bend behind another house, which is itself adjacent to another alley that you are able to slide into. With the rain and the mud, your footprints can't be tracked as it washes away, and you start walking through the area, and there's no one around and no one about, and you hear the muffled voices of what sounds like an old man. What happened here? And just hear yelling as you start making your way off from that area, making your escape, as the voices become more muffled, and you put distance between you and the scene there and what just happened, until finally you don't hear any more of that. Any more voices, any more yelling. It's just the rain hitting the muddy roads. You're breathing heavy in your ears, your heartbeat pounding as you stand there with your back against a wall, catching your breath.
Yeah, and as Lucian's standing there catching his breath, the steam rolling off his body as his head and his arms and anything that's exposed, as he's attempting to flee this area, he takes a moment, he catches his breath, and he looks up and tries to get his bearings and figure out how much farther he has. And
go ahead and give me a navigation check. So it takes you longer than you would have liked as you start trying to make your way back through this unfamiliar town in the dark and in the rain, not being able to recognize the buildings, not familiar with them, and until finally you make your way back towards the waterfront, and you see, a familiar building here, there, and you finally see the inn. You finally see the inn, but you know that it is extremely late or extremely early, depending on the viewpoint. You're standing there out of breath, and with the rain still drizzling down off far in the distance, the horizon starts taking on that shade of dark blue. As you can tell, the sun is going to be coming up soon. It took you at least a little more than an hour to find your way back here. And now it will be daylight soon.
This and realizing the hour, he takes a moment and just catches his breath once again and stares off over the horizon and ponders the situation and decides still to make his way in to the inn and then back up to his room, and to gather up any of his belongings or anything that he may have left in there. And also he's hoping to see, as in passing, of the commons area or common sleeping area, if Edburn made his way back here.
And as you pass by the commons area, you don't see Edburn. You don't see him anywhere in the room. What you do see is Durak snoring loudly, and the people sleeping around him with blankets over their heads, covering their ears. Looks like they've been in a position of tossing and turning by how disheveled their sleeping mats look. But they lie there sleeping now with their ears covered as Durak snores.
And so Lucian will make note of that. So he's assuming at this point that Edburn's probably not going to make his way onto the ship, but he's hoping that he does. And so he makes his way into his room and just sits down for a moment. And I don't remember, didn't we asked the barkeep if he would put a wake-up call to us, right?
Yeah, and as you walk actually into the tavern, into the inn, actually you had already gone upstairs and looked in the common room. You hear noises downstairs, as if someone's moving dishes around or doing something down there.
realizes that that's likely either the bark, and he will look inside the private room just to see if Juliana's back in there, and then, like I said, to gather up any belongings.
And as you look in your private room to see if Juliana is in there, Juliana, make a Constitution test without the plus 20.
Oh no. Not consume alcohol?
Actually, yes. I'm sorry, that's basically the same thing as what I'm trying to go for.
Hey.
So, Juliana, you can decide. Are you back in yours and Lucian's room?
Yeah, after
Because you did not pass out.
after Margaret and her were finished, she would have given her a kiss on the head. I'm guessing she probably fell asleep at that point. At least she'd hope. But yeah, she'd kind of make sure that Margaret's all tucked in and comfortable before getting up, getting redressed, just as minimal clothing. She knew she just had to run across the hall to get to her room. And afterwards, she would have run into her and Lucian's room, setting everything up so it was easy for her to grab everything in the morning and quickly head out. But yeah, she would be sleeping in their room, in the bed.
Okay, and make a perception test without the plus 20. So, you do remember in the middle of the night after you had spent an intimate evening with Margaret, at some point while you were sitting there resting, you heard her up and about, walking around, shuffling just a little bit before finally coming back and falling asleep next to you. And then it's later on that morning, I'm assuming, is when you to your where Lucian is.
Mm-hmm.
Or where Lucian is now.
She would have, just in case, kind of checked her stuff. Just to make sure she still had everything.
Yep, and all of your things are there.
But I'm guessing, yeah, she would have woken up and very early in the morning and headed back to her own room, knowing that Lucian's probably wondering where she is.
So, Lucian, when you walk into the room, you see Juliana lying there. Just lying in bed as you walk in, wet, covered in mud, even have some blood on you.
So,
You cut out there, buddy. Nope.
You there, Luce?
Don't. Oh,
Oh, man.
rough time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lucian comes into the room and looks over and sees Juliana laying in the bed. And as he's sort of dripping wet and covered in mud and blood and all of that, he comes in, closes the door over as quietly as possible, and then just removes all of the cold and wet clothing and makes his way over to the bed and just sits on the corner of it with his head in his hands, and he's just breathing a little heavily as he sits there.
Juliana, you feel the weight of the bed drop down as he sits there. All the private rooms are laid out the same. That's why this room looks like the last room. And you hear him come in, and you feel the weight of him as he sits down.
Yeah, she sits up and rubs her eyes and kind of seeing in the minimal light that's streaming through the window. Sees his wet hair, probably still some blood that's maybe flaked onto his skin, and she gets up with haste and sits beside him, puts an arm around him. Listen, what happened?
Everything went according to plan.
That is good.
Yeah. It was just one hell of a plan, that's all. Remind me, I've got more business with a halfling.
Alright, are you okay?
And Lucian doesn't say anything about his condition. Instead, he just picks up the map that's still rolled and just hands it over to Juliana.
She takes it into her hand. She doesn't open it yet. Instead of just opening it, she quickly just stuffs it into her bag that's nearby the bed, and quickly putting it away in haste, she sits back up on the bed and leans over to Lucian and pulls him into a hug. I'm just glad you're okay.
As always, my love, as always.
Good. Just, we can talk about it later.
Yes, of course. I'm just going to lay down for a minute or two. Rest my eye.
No problem. I am going to, I might as well stay up. Not too sure how long it is till morning, but, I'll make sure you get up, okay?
And Lucian, as you lie down, lie back, still somewhat damp, you close your eyes, and you get flashes of that dog above you, snarling at you, your weapon penetrating his chest, the blood pouring out onto you, the yelping, the barking. And then you hear the old man's voice. What's happening? What's happening? I want you to make a willpower check without the plus 20. And as you lie there with those images just kind of flashing behind your closed eyes as you try and get some rest and some sleep, you're not quite able to. I do want you to take a corruption point. As the thought and the images of what you just did just linger and prevent you from resting. And as you all try and finish getting rest, getting ready, the scene switches to the common rooms. Again, where the dwarf is snoring loudly. No one else is able to really get any more rest. It's been hours. And the dwarf is happily lying there, getting the most peaceful rest out of everyone else. Juliana, you tend to Lucian, Lucian, you struggle to cope with everything that happened the night before, thinking about where Edwin might be, what happened to him. And as you all do that, the camera pans. It goes up into the sky and over the forest, the river, follows it down. And it follows it to Altdorf. As it follows it to Altdorf, the old barkeep is there. He's there serving up all the people he normally serves up. Everyone going about their business. When all of a sudden, a woman walks in and starts asking questions about some people who have traveled through here that he might have seen. The dwarf behind the tavern says, "Well, I didn't quite see anyone, if you know what I mean, but maybe I did." And he looks down at her coin purse, and she smiles, pulls out a couple of coins, slides them across the bar. And the dwarf says, "Yeah, I might have seen them. Last I heard they were going upriver. Mordheim it was. Doing something there, I don't know. I stay out of people's business." And she smiles and nods at him as she walks out and makes her way to the harbor. And she makes her way to the harbor, and everyone's waking up back at the inn, at the village, boats getting prepared and ready. The scene goes black, and that's it for tonight.